people who are in burnout, they don't have any meaning in what they're doing. They struggle to stay focused. They feel lack of confidence. They have low energy all the time. And I was realizing that those are some of the things that I had experienced that I was doing were showing up for me. And I was pretty scared because I didn't know what to do about it.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name is Rick Nuske. I am the host of the show and I am one of the most luckiest people in the world to be able to talk with some amazing entrepreneurs, business owners and the likes. And on today's call, I'm with Nikole Stanfield. How are you, Nikole?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here with you today, Rick.
Yes, it's wonderful to see your smiling face there. Now, I know that you run a business, you're an entrepreneur at myintuitioncoach.com, but there's a problem. There's a problem that we need to address, I think, in terms of, the way entrepreneurs look at themselves, the way they act, and some of the consequences that can result in striving for their goals. But before we deep dive into that, Nikole, I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about yourself with the audience.
Yeah, so I am an entrepreneur. I've had my own business since 2014, and I wasn't really very good at 9 to 5 jobs. So I decided to start my own business, not really knowing what I was doing and digital marketing. And I was good at that. I was successful.
Mm-hmm.
I found clients and everything seemed to be going great. And then I started having some strange I don't know, experiences.
Yep.
And some things started coming up for me and I didn't really know what was going on. And like, for example, I would get angry at the end of a project instead of feeling like we had accomplished something like launching a website. I'd be frustrated and I'd be angry. I'd be angry with my clients. I felt bored with the work I was doing, but at the same time, I was clinging to the clients that I had because I didn't know where else I was going to get money from.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, my creativity just dried up. And that's a terrifying thing for someone who's in marketing as well as an entrepreneur. And I got to the point where I was barely surviving my weeks. I felt like I was sick because on the weekends I would just lay around and I would have no energy to do anything. And I didn't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so empty going to the store. Like I started to be like, this is not right. There's something that needs to change. So I took a week off last June and I didn't have to do anything. I had no responsibilities but feeding myself, sleeping, and feeding the dogs. And by the end of that week, I thought I would be fixed. I thought I would be cured.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. I was more tired. It was like planning a mountain trek up a 14er to go to the grocery store, which was 5 minutes away, and get more food for myself.
Wow, that's there's some signals there, but when we're in that moment as that individual, that person on the other side of, I guess, the fence, you don't see them, do you? You don't recognize what the signals are. How was it that it came to be that you were able to recognize that there was a problem?
So actually, I was really lucky because my husband is a teacher, and he was worried that he was going to burn out from teaching. 'Cause it's common.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talks about it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And nobody really wants it to happen. So he was trying to be preventative. And he started talking to me about the course and saying, people who are in burnout, they don't have any meaning in what they're doing. They struggle to stay focused. They feel lack of confidence. They have low energy all the time. And I was realizing that those are some of the things that I had experienced that I was doing were showing up for me. And I was pretty scared because I didn't know what to do about it. And as an entrepreneur, when you're the sole business owner and everything's on you, you have to make all the decisions. You have to be the person that is the marketer and the manages clients and customer service and does billing and then executes on the work, the client work,
Mm-hmm.
and the strategy and the creativity and just all of it, and holds people accountable. And it's exhausting. And so he started to tell me these things and I realized that maybe burnout was showing up for me. And so that's when I decided maybe I should take some time off and I'll sleep and I'll just cancel all my appointments and then I'll be fixed at the end of a week. And I wasn't. I read a book. I did some research online. I worked with my coach and all this stuff trying to figure out what was going on.
Yep.
So I self-identified that I was in burnout, and I took a quiz to kind of see what was going on and some of the things that were showing up for me, like the anger, the frustration, the lack of meaning, my loss of creativity. Those were all signs of burnout, and I had no idea that they were caused by burnout.
So this is not only physiological, this is psychological as well. Are there two components to this?
Yeah, there's an emotional component as well.
Right.
So different levels, we experience it in different ways. You can be burnt out from, I don't know, your family during the holidays and being like, oh, I'm so tired. They need to go home, right?
Been there.
You can be burnt out from semester finals. You can be tired and be like, oh, that was exhausting. I'm going to take a couple days, I'm going to rest, and then I'll be fine and I'll get over it. As someone who's a high achiever myself, I've spent a lot of my time being busy and going and doing things and running around and having way too many commitments. And so normally if I got run down, I'd just go and take a little break and then I'd be fine. And this time it didn't work like that.
Didn't happen at all. But I always think about my audience, and I always think about the entrepreneurs, the business owners that all go through similar things. If you were to be coaching somebody who's right at the very same point you were when you began, knowing what you know, what would you say to them on their journey?
So the first thing that I would tell them is that they need to take some time for themselves. And that seems really overwhelming because they're busy and they've got a lot of things to do. But if they even just cancel some meetings in a week and just be like, I'm just not going to do anything extra after work this week, or I'm going to ask my spouse to help me, and we're going to do a big meal so that we can have leftovers the whole week. We don't have to cook dinners. Whatever that is, it can be small things that you can do, things that you can control in your life, because you may feel like you don't have control or you're overwhelmed, just trying to think of another thing you have to do on your list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taking some time, and take that time for yourself. Don't give it to someone else. Don't do something else with it. Don't clean the house. Take it, be lazy, do some self-care. If that's something that you have identified, some things that give you energy, because when you're at that point where I was, it's almost like a shutdown mode. It's almost like your body's just going to be done and you won't be able to do any of that stuff. So we don't want to get there. And I don't want to overwhelm you with like, oh, you have to do all these things. If I was working with someone and they had raised their hand and said, hey, I'm in burnout and I don't want to be here anymore, I want something different, then I take them through, we have 9 different steps.
Yep.
And we start off by building small habits together.
That's fantastic.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about this in terms of I'm the entrepreneur, and I'm in this position where everything's supposed to be golden, everything's supposed to be rosy, and I'm meant to achieve all these fantastic things. Now, the reason I mention this again is because I don't think the intention here is to scare entrepreneurs into thinking this is always what's going to happen. I think this is a preventative thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. So it's a lot of people are scared of burnout. It's like the monster under the bed that nobody wants to talk about. And I've been to events before where I say, I help people with burnout. And the first thing they say is, I'm not burnt out. I love my business. I love my job. Everything is great. Right? So we can't even acknowledge it sometimes. And I completely get that. And it was very scary for me to acknowledge that I was in burnout, because I was like, does this mean I'm going to lose my business? Am I going to lose my clients? What is going on? And so I didn't know what to do. So the thing is that work-life balance will help you to offset burnout and how it can show up in your life. And I find that as entrepreneurs, I feel like we're on this treadmill, and we have this really great idea and we start our business and then we make our first money. We get our first client. We're really excited and we have this goal, this vision of being able to travel the world or whatever it is why you decide to become an entrepreneur. For me, it was traveling the world and being able to work from different locations.
Yep.
And so then because of that goal and it was working, I wanted to make more money. So I sacrificed other things, my time after dinner and my downtime and time during the weekend so I could make it successful and I could make it big. And then I didn't have any energy. So then I felt guilty because I didn't have anything left to give to my family or to events or to things on the weekend. So then I would put more time in so that then I could make that money so then I could have the freedom. And
Mm.
it's this treadmill that we get into that I don't feel like in order to be successful, you have to be in burnout.
Yeah, because what you've done, if you don't recognize it, you're compounding the problem, aren't you?
Yeah.
The bucket can
And
only get so empty.
we feel like as entrepreneurs, we have to do all these things. You have to hustle and you have to bootstrap it and you have to make it all work. And what if you're still running your business as a startup 4 years later? That's a lot of energy and things you're putting into it because you don't want to lose momentum. And I
Hmm.
totally get that. But at the same time, where are you going to get support? When are you going to get help to build that work-life balance? You can only maintain that for so long.
Yeah, and I think this is just a wonderful wake up call for a lot of people. Um, if when they're going through this, you have experienced this yourself. You decided to create this program. Can we deep dive into this program and what it does for people?
Yeah, yeah. So the goal is to beat burnout by creating work-life balance,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if you think about three circles and they're all connected, the center is beating burnout. And then if you look at the circle, there's one that's about creating simple habits. And we want to work on mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. And these are habits that you can include 20 minutes in your day or less. So an example and something that someone could apply right away and is one of my top tips for getting out of burnout is meditation, mindfulness meditation.
Hmm.
So when I first heard about this, I was very judgmental towards it. And I felt like it was only for
A
hippies
bit
and
woo woo.
people who were woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
And I read this quote that this woman said. She was like, mindfulness meditation is the most powerful tool to shift your brain. And she almost missed out on it because of her judgments. So I was like, I'll give it a shot and I'll see what this is. Sounds a little crazy. And I started doing it like 5 minutes, not a ton. And I did some YouTube videos and at first I didn't feel any different. And then like about a week or two in, I started feeling like I was in the Matrix and saw like bullets whizzing by me that in the past I had to step into and like get the full impact of that or something that would really frustrate me and make me angry.
Hmm.
And I was able to just see it go by. So mindfulness meditation helps shift your brain from being reactive to being able to reflect and take a minute and then respond. And sometimes it's just that second, that beat to let something go by and be like, I don't really need to engage with that today.
Yeah, you can make a choice. This doesn't have to be how your day pans out, does it?
Yeah, no. So that's mental health, right? And then some physical health, like a tip that I give people is a lot of times entrepreneurs forget that we don't have a boss, right? It's great. But at the same time, we don't have someone to tell us when to go home or
Yeah.
tell us when we have to take our lunch.
Yeah.
So don't skip your lunch. I don't care when you take it, just take a break. Take time for yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the first three things that we focus on. And then the next circle is all about finding time. So we talk about finding time for fun. As adults, we kind of skip on fun sometimes. We
Yep.
think that that's only for kids
Hmm.
when fun is really important. Time for fun and time to just be silly and goofy and whatever that is for you. Very important. And then daily self-care, A lot of people do self-care only when they're stressed or when they have something coming up like a wedding, but they don't do it daily. And I believe that if you do it in small chunks, then it's going to help you overall instead of just on one occasion when you need so much of it to feel better. And then the third part is downtime. And entrepreneurs are not good at this. I know that, like, I won't really take sick days, right?
Yeah.
Before, I was working in bed because we always have our work with us. It's right there on the computer. And then national holidays, I was working through those because social media still has to happen on those days and I can plan it, but sometimes it was like an event or something like that. So I found that I wasn't really taking downtime and I'd be jealous of other people's vacation time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's just a wonderful model that you have. Thank you so much for sharing some insight there. There's certainly some gold there. I want to uh, talk a little bit about individuals who they don't recognize this. What is the steps that you take them through, and how long does it take for a new client of yours to go through that recognition of, hey, look, I've got a problem? How do you get them there?
So there's actually one more part
Yep, yep, yep.
of my model. Um, it's we talk about what drives you and how to say no with boundaries, how to become an intuitive decision maker. So a lot of times when people come to me, they may be experiencing low energy or they may be like, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm bored, but I'm making lots of money. Like, I don't understand. I feel unfulfilled.
Yep.
Or they may be like, I just struggle to get out of bed. I don't want to go do my work. I used to love it. And now it's been 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And I'm just frustrated and I want to have a life. That entrepreneur life that everybody thinks we're working in our pajamas at home, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, and so the first step is identifying some of those signs that are showing up for you that you think are just because you're tired. Um, for example, if you're having a caffeinated drink every day just so that you can wake up, if you're using snacks that are sugar-based during the afternoon to make it through your afternoon because you're bored and you just don't want to do what you're working on, but you force yourself to because maybe you skip lunch, those are some warning signs that I can help people when they come to me and they say, this is what I'm doing, help them identify like some signs of burnout could be showing up for you.
Yep.
So then we talk about what would they like it to look like instead? What's that work-life balance look like for them that they had envisioned when they first started their entrepreneur journey or their business or whatever it is? And so we help them work towards that goal. And the program is 9 weeks.
9 weeks.
And yeah, we do coaching, a mixture of coaching as well as teaching, because I feel like it's really important that when you learn something new and then you have to follow through that week, sometimes challenges come up for you and you're like, I don't want to do this, or this is stupid, or it doesn't work for me.
Nobody's
So the
watching. I don't
coaching,
have to do it.
right? The coaching is that accountability piece. So it pulls both parts together so that then you do start to see those shifts and those changes actually happen in your life.
That's wonderful. Just, you must have some very strong relationships with your clients because they almost come to rely on you to say, hey, enough's enough for today, almost.
Yeah, you have to. It feels like entrepreneurs are expected to work all the time and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a model that is promoted. That's what an entrepreneur is supposed to look like. And I want to shift that. Instead of talking about I'm so tired and I'm surviving my week and I hate this and shifting that to being like, how am I taking care of myself?
Yeah.
What am I doing for myself and supporting each other in that, instead of being like, I'm so burnt out on this, but I have to do it because I'm making lots of money with this client.
I'd love to go a little bit granular, if I could, from a daily perspective. For somebody who's an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
they're your client. I'm thinking about the term focus and productivity. If you're not focused, how can you be productive? So I'm not sure exactly how this works, but is there times in a day where you should allocate your best time to be focused and thus productive?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different people who have different opinions on that.
Mm-hmm.
I've found one that works for me. I don't always advise people on their focus on productivity. What I do is I help them identify Like when I was in burnout, I would work for about 15 minutes and then I had to take a break. I almost couldn't make it for 15 minutes of work, which
Wow.
is ridiculous,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's really silly. But that's where I was. I was so disconnected and not present and bored with what I was doing. And I knew it, and other people knew it too, but nobody was saying anything about it. So after going through burnout and just spending some time, I didn't have a course. I didn't have a guide. I didn't have somebody to help me work through this. So it took me some time to figure out what was going on, and things that would normally take me an hour to do took 3 hours. So
Mm.
productivity, when it starts like crazy, like stretching out and your productivity just tanks, that's a big sign that you need to take time for yourself.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, I find that I focus better in the morning. That's like my creative time. And then in the afternoon is time when I have conversations with people and do some coaching and enjoy that. That's how I spend my time in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But I realize that if I'm pushing against something and if there's something I want to do and I'm pushing it and I'm like, I have to get this webinar done. I have to get this project done. It's pushing against me, right?
Yeah.
And so we're just in this constant battle almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not accomplishing anything.
No.
That's the honest truth. I want to say I'm doing something, but I'm really not doing anything.
No.
So if I step away and I go do something for myself, something that gives me energy, like right now it's spring where I am in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And so planting some basil, I did that the other day, or going outside in the sun, or reading. I'm talking about like 15, 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be super long, but just a shift.
Yep.
So that then when you come back to that project, if you have more focus and productivity, then you can be like, great, this was awesome. Sometimes it's a small shift and sometimes it's a big shift. And after going through burnout, I give myself permission that I can take the amount of time I need to without having to force myself to do something, because I used to just call myself a wimp and be like, just push through.
Yep.
Just keep pushing.
Harden
Just
up,
get it
Nikole.
done.
Harden up. Yeah. And it's, that almost that bravado, I can do this. And I think there's some sage advice for entrepreneurs, business owners who are listening to this going, you know what? There's something here. Maybe because other people are experiencing this, I can learn something from this. I love the fact that, you're taking yourself away from one environment, even be just for 15 minutes, to another environment outside, and just looking at the trees or whatever it is, just for that moment in time. I noticed for myself that resets everything, doesn't it? Do you
It does.
do you find that there are lots of people coming to you for help with this thing? How big a problem is this?
So it's interesting because I get actually an older generation of people
Mm-hmm.
who would be called baby boomers,
Yep.
who they don't, they know that there's something that they want to have different, but they've sacrificed so much over such a long period of time that they see maybe a parent who is also an entrepreneur and they're like, I don't want to be like that. And I know I need to do something different,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what it is. And they're experiencing some of those signs of burnout that I was talking about.
Yep.
But it's a scary thing to admit. And whether it's coming on because they're at the end of their career, or there's a change that's happening that they're not ready for, or whatever that next step is. Sometimes it's a legacy thing, like what will people remember me by?
Mm-hmm.
What have I contributed? And those things can bring on some of that burnout and being like, I don't know. And that's a really scary point to be in. So it's surprising. I thought that it would be people my age
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
who are creators and who are putting stuff up like every day. On YouTube, you see people burning out a lot.
Yep.
And you see people talking to their millions of subscribers and just being like, I can't do this.
Yep.
I need to take a
I've
break.
seen that. Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also an older generation of people who, millennials have some awareness of work-life balance, and the baby boomer generation has worked so hard for so long, yet they don't know what is it that I did? What did I accomplish? What's the next step for me? What does that look like?
Yeah, and they've normalised that dreadful situation, I guess you'd call it. So when people want to work with you, they recognise, hey, look, I might have something that I need to address here. where are they going to find you?
That's a great question. So if you go to myintuitioncoach.com/burnout-quiz,
Mm-hmm.
they can take a little really quick 5-minute quiz that will ask them some of the questions and go over a couple of the things we talked about today.
Yep.
And then also on my website, myintuitioncoach.com, they can go to apply and set up a strategy session with me. And we talk about where they're at, where they want to be, and what's standing in their way and how they can get there.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to learn more about how the program works, they can sign up for my webinar, which you'll find on my homepage. It's the Love What You Do formula.
Yep.
And I go over those 9 steps that we talked about and how they can apply and some things that they can bring into their own life to see some changes right away.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So if you're on the call today, if you have 2 feet and a heartbeat and you're an entrepreneur, there is quite the chance that you're burning the candle at both ends. And I suggest you just stop and reflect and consider whether or not there's something to manage there. It's something to improve. Nikole, I've just taken so much away from this call. Thank you very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.